How's it going, aliens? My name is iALiEN. Today I'm back on another Identity 5 video, and today's video will be an updated Hunter tier list for Season 7. Let's get right into the video. Okay, before I get into the tier list and how it works, I do want to plug my Discord server. We're over 820 members now. The link will be in the pinned comment below, as well as the description below, so go please click the link and join the server today. Also, we're so close to 5,000 subscribers, so if you end up enjoying this video and want to see more videos like this, like my Survivor tier list coming out in a few days, and also my other videos that I make, then after this video, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Hashtag road to 5,000 subscribers. Okay, so let's get into how this tier list actually works. So, there's D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier, and S tier. D tier hunters are unviable and they are bad. C tier hunters are nearly unviable. They're pretty bad, but you can actually win with them against bad survivors. Like D tier hunters, or the hunter, even against bad survivors, they need to be worker B level to win with. C tier hunters, you can win with them against bad survivors if they make a lot of mistakes, but against most survivors, you aren't going to stand a chance, really. Next is B tier. B tier hunters are viable and they are decent. They're just decent hunters, but against the best survivors that don't make too many mistakes, you are going to have a really difficult time winning with them, and these are not going to be top choices. These are not going to be hunters you see a lot, because while you can win with them, it's also very difficult to win with them. A tier hunters are pretty good hunters with a strong skill set, but usually there's some counterplay that survivors can use to basically beat you. But if you really master these A tier hunters, you can win the majority of your games and be really, really good with all of those hunters in A tier. And S tier hunters are the best hunters. They are still, survivors can still beat them. They're really beatable like any hunter. But these hunters inflict the most pressure on survivors, whether it's them being difficult to kite, whether it's something like that. They are really strong, and they give you the best chance to win against survivors, and these are going to be the most popular hunters you see because they are the best hunters. Okay, let's start with D tier. We all know who is D tier and who's the worst hunter. And that's Gamekeeper. Gamekeeper has been at the bottom of my tier list for like a year now, and he was supposed to be buffed for almost a year now, and he's still not buffed. They say he's supposed to be buffed by the end of August, so let's hope that's actually the case. But for now, he's just really bad. I don't really need to explain why he's bad. He has bad attack range, really clunky mechanics. He's terrible early game. He's only good in game, but even in game, his mechanics are pretty clunky, so he's just a bad hunter. But let's hope that the next time I do my Season 8 tier list, let's hope that I will not have to say that he's D tier. I really hope that I won't have to say that Gamekeeper is D tier in my Season 8 tier list, because hopefully he would have been buffed, but they've been saying that for like a year, so who knows. Next is C tier. First in C tier is Ember. He's pretty bad. Terrible early game, and just terrible early game and bad attack range, and just he's a pretty bad hunter. But there's also a lot you can do with Ember. He has a lot of unique mechanics about him that are really difficult to master and use, really difficult. But if you master them, you will actually be able to beat probably a lot of survivors that make mistakes. The thing is, even when you master these mechanics about him, like double hitting and all the puppets and when to use the embers, against good survivors you still are not going to win, because against good survivors they are not literally not going to get hit by you. You aren't going to get hit against a good survivor, so you can't really use these mechanics in snowball. But he's a pretty bad hunter, but against most survivors you really master him, he can be somewhat decent. Next in C tier is the Feaster. Feaster is pretty bad as well. He's just the same way. He has a terrible early game, and that really hurts. The game, Identity 5 is all about early game. If you cannot get a quick down, then chances are, for most hunters, some hunters are of course an exception, but for most hunters, if you cannot get a quick down, then the game's over at that point, because you're just going to get cypher rushed. And that's why it is with Feaster. He has to rely on camping and snowballing, but by the time you will finally catch someone, 4 ciphers have been popped, so who really cares at that point? So that's his issue. He is getting buffed soon or reworked soon, so once he gets his rework, I'll analyze him again and see what tier he's at and whether it helped him a lot, a little, or not at all, and I'll make an analysis on that. But for now, he's pretty bad hunter and he's C tier. Next is B tier. First in B tier, she was B tier last tier list and she still is B tier, and that's Geisha. When she first came out, she was actually an S tier hunter, but now she's fallen and fallen to B tier because she gets countered way too much. The amount of counters you can say for Geisha is just so many. Perfumer counters her, Thief counters her, Prospector counters her, Enchantress counters her, Seer counters her, and even Magician. He doesn't have a tough time kiting Geisha. Magician is actually pretty good against Geisha. So her attack range is absolutely terrible. And so because of all the counters in her attack range and the fact that she cannot secure kills very easily, her camping is not good. And with no more Doomshock, Geisha is practically dead. Doomshock was the only thing Geisha's had to win with, and now with no more Doomshock, Geisha is just not good against good survivors. You can still beat mediocre to bad survivors because a Geisha can be difficult to kite. A Geisha can actually be difficult to kite if you are not familiar with kiting Geishas, and if you aren't familiar with kiting in general. So against mediocre and bad survivors, she's still pretty good, just because you're going to kill survivors so quickly with her dash and her dash spots that you know that survivors won't know. But against good survivors, they know all the dash spots, so they're able to block them up and easily kite you. So she's easily kiteable, not a good camper, no more Doomshock, and she has nothing else to help her out. Bad attack range, so that's why she's B tier. Next in B tier is my old main, Wu Chang. Wu Chang was B tier last tier list too, and I stand by it. He has not really gotten any better since my last tier list. Hasn't practically gotten worse either. He's just stayed about the same. But Enchantress counters Wu Chang and Prospector counters Wu Chang, so that really hurts him. Soul Siphon, you can't Soul Siphon if a Prospector comes to save, or if an Enchantress comes to save, because they can stun you out the Soul Siphon. Even an Acrobat can take you out the Soul Siphon by using his Fireball, so that's a really big nerf to Wu Chang because of these survivors that can do that. And he's easily kiteable. The only redeeming quality about Wu Chang is his attack range, is his hitbox. He has the best hitbox of any hunter. He has the best hitbox of any hunter. His white form is great. His hold, his charge attack in white form is the longest hitbox in the game. It's insanely long. Even his regular hit on white is pretty long, and it's great for going through pallets. His black hitbox is good too. It's great for hitting through pallets. Like when a survivor's in the animation of throwing down a pallet, his attack is so quick in black form that he can hit them through it while they're throwing down the pallet. So his redeeming quality is his hitbox that's so good, and that he can get a free hit on someone if you can master his teleports. So for that reason, he's still viable, but he has nothing else, and he is easily kiteable. Even if you get that first hit, survivors are able to counter you after that. If it was a seer you teleported on, you still need 2 more hits. If it's a perfumer you teleported on, you still need 2 more hits. If it's a prospect you teleported on, he could have had his magnet out, and then he could have stunned you, so then you didn't get that hit on him, so then you still need 2 more hits. If it's an enchantress, you only need 1 more hit, but good luck getting that hit now that she has a stack, and she's just going to keep stacking on you. So that really makes him easy to kite, and that hurts Wu Chang a lot. So while he still is viable, he just lacks what other hunters have and what a hunter needs, because his early game is not great. Next in B tier is Axe Boy. He remains in B tier because he's a pretty decent hunter. Out of every B tier hunter, he's probably the best one. I would say he's the best B tier hunter. He's the most dangerous B tier hunter, because he's similar to Ripper, but just clunkier to use, more difficult to use, and easier to kite. So because Foggy Blades, his fireballs are similar to Foggy Blades, but unlike Ripper, who doesn't need trees to use Foggy Blades, who doesn't need to summon something to him, the survivors don't get an indication where it's coming from, like you do with Axe Boy. He doesn't have all of those things about him that Axe Boy has that makes him counterable. The biggest thing to Axe Boy is transitional kiting. If you transitionally kite Axe Boy, which means to not loop, to not stay in one area, to just keep moving around, then he's going to get destroyed. Because if you loop, that's when he can put the tree down, and he can just wait for you and then get the fireball hit. Especially if he has peepers, he can just plant the tree, plant the peepers, and then get an easy fireball on you, and that's how he will kill people. But once you just move out, he plants a tree, and then you just take the speed boost from broken windows and leave. That's when you're really going to kite an Axe Boy, and that's his issue, is because transitional kiting kills him, and good survivors know this, and that's why they will transition to other kiting areas against an Axe Boy. And once you do that, he's an M1 killer, so it's pretty easy to kite him. But he is still dangerous, because if you don't transitionally kite correctly, then he can get hits. He can actually get hits on you. Unlike Feaster or Ember, he can hit you and get you down quick enough early game, because he has something early game besides the other hunters. And on top of that, his camping is just as OP as Feaster or Ember. He's just up there with the best campers. His camping super OP, and once he gets max presence, Axe Boy is really, really insane. And his camping at max presence is disgusting. It's super, super good. Lastly, in B tier, we have the newest hunter, Evil Reptilian, is in B tier, and he's very similar to Axe Boy. He's pretty decent of a hunter. He's not bad, he's just not great either. It's the same thing, it's just early game. Same with everyone. Evil Reptilian can kill you quickly, But at the same time, he's also an easy kite, especially at the start of the game. He doesn't even have his body slam, so you're kiting. All he can do is jump on you. His attack range is not good, so all he can do is jump on you. But if you're at a pallet, you just throw the pallet. So since he doesn't have his body slam at the start of the game, if he did, that would probably make him around an A tier hunter. That would really help him. But since he doesn't, that makes him an easy kite early game. If you're a perfumer, easy kite, and just hunters like that, it's an easy kite. And when survivors, you face a team of survivors that know how to kite you and know how to kite an evil Reptilian, you are going to have a difficult time. But he's not a bad hunter at all. His camping is also pretty good. He's a pretty decent camper. Maybe not as OP as someone like Axeboy, but he's pretty close to that level. His camping's good. He can cover it. He has a lot of mobility with his jumping. At max presence, he's really, really strong. And his early game is not terrible like some of the other hunters we've went through. So that makes him a B tier hunter, pretty decent, but also not some scary hunter. When you see an evil Reptilian, you aren't scared of him. You know it's a very winnable game, as well as you have good teammates that don't die to him super quickly, and as well as you do what you have to do in terms of kiting. Next, let's move to A tier. Let's start off. The first hunter in A tier is Smiley Face. He used to be an S tier hunter. He used to be the best hunter, but he's dropped down because of counters, and he's also dropped down because of the new meta. So the survivors that counter him has really hurt Smiley Face, because Prospector counters him hard, Enchantress counters him, Acrobat counters him, Magician counters him, even Perfumer counters him. Perfumer used to not counter him because survivors didn't know how to correctly use her against him. But now that they do know how to use her, which is Perfume and a palette, that's another survivor that counters her. So if you're facing a team, more than likely, a good team of survivors, they're going to have Perfumer, Enchantress, Prospector, Magician, or Acrobat. They're going to have at least 2 of these survivors. So that makes 2 of the survivors hard counters to you. And then the other survivor will be a rescue. So if that's mercenary or forward, you aren't going to really catch a mercenary or a forward. So then let's say the last survivor is a mechanic. That means there's only one survivor you can actually easily down, which is the mechanic. But if she's good, she's just going to be decoding with her bot anyway. So if you do find something, it's going to be the bot. So that's still knowing you're killing. You aren't actually killing the mechanic. So that really shows you why Clown is not an S tier hunter. Because even if he's so great, when you are facing every game a team that has at least 2 survivors that hard counter you, I mean, there are ways to get over this, but overall that just is going to make him not as potent as other hunters. And on top of that, maps counter him. Just maps like Leo's Memory is a terrible map for him because of all of the god palettes in that map. Hospital's pretty bad. So Moonlight's still good for Clown. Lakeside is decent for Clown, and Church can be good for Clown, but every other map is bad for him, basically. And if survivors know when to put down the pallet and how to stop your dash and to vault through the pallet, then you are going to have a very difficult time as Clown. So overall, he's really fallen because of all of the survivors that counter him, because of the maps that hurt him, and because of just the counter play you have, which is putting down the pallet on the dash, stopping the dash. And because of that, even the best clowns can have amazing games, but then they can face another team survivors that just destroy him. And it's not that they're bad with him, it's simply because this game hurts Clown in this new meta, and in Season 7, it really hurts Clown. But he is really strong because of why he was the best hunter before. He's such a really strong hunter. He can make you heal super slow. He has great mobility. He can be difficult to kite if you are not playing a hunter that directly counters him. A survivor that directly counters him. He can be difficult to kite in that case. His camping is pretty good. So, and he hard counters Mercenary, which is the most popular rescuer. So, Clown is still a very good hunter, but he can also be really frustrating to play as because of the survivors that you're facing. Next in A tier is Mad Eyes. Mad Eyes is a really good hunter. He's really difficult to use. I'd say he's the most difficult hunter to use correctly. And he has a lot of different playstyles, but Mad Eyes is really, really strong. All it takes is the one time you face a top Mad Eyes, the one time you face a Mad Eyes that actually knows what he's doing, to understand why he's so high in the tier list. Once you have that one match against a Mad Eyes that knows what he's doing, you know why he's high and why he's a really good hunter. Because his camping is super OP. His camping recently got nerfed, which made him, a lot of times he was nearly unbeatable if you had a bad team. Now he's actually beatable, but his camping is still really good even with the nerf. But it did impact him. And dodging walls can be difficult. It honestly can be difficult. And once Mad Eyes hits max presence, if he hits max presence too early, then the game's over. If he hits max presence and you only pop no ciphers or only one cipher, it doesn't matter if no one's injured and you've been doing a good job, the game is over. Because Mad Eye's full presence, I would say, is the most powerful hunter in the game, because he can just trap you in so easily, and he has so many walls, and it's just super, and his camping's more broken, and it's just super insane. So once he hits max presence, if he hits it early enough, then the game is practically over, and you really have to be smart, and you really have to know what you're doing to beat a good Mad Eyes. You need to make the right decisions. You have to know how to dodge the walls, places where he can't get you. You have to be able to heal up a lot. You have to do a lot of healing, and how to disrupt the Mad Eyes. You have to do all of that to be a really good Mad Eyes, and that's what makes him A tier. The issues with Mad Eyes is stunner characters hurt him. Prospector and Enchantress counter Mad Eyes. They can just stun him out of his walls, and so that hurts him. And also draining his machines hurts him. And being able to Doctor hard counters Mad Eyes. So because of his counters and the counter play of draining his machines and dodging walls, that will hurt a Mad Eyes, and that's why he's not an S tier hunter, because he is counterable, and there's very not easy counterplay, but counterplay that you can use to beat him. But he is a very potent and strong hunter, so he's A tier. Next and lastly in A tier is Photographer. He's been A tier. Well, it used to be S tier, but then he was A tier in my last tier list. He's A tier again. He's still an A tier hunter. He's really good. Photo is different from most hunters. He does not rely on kiting, on killing a survivor quickly at all. It's all about what you do in Photo. You have to know spawns. But if you know spawns, and if you can find people in the Photo, and you know how to make everyone one hit and snowball the game, and how to stop the coding, he counters cipher rushing, then you will be really good with Photo, and you will win a lot of games. Just think about a hunter that counters cipher rushing. They're going to be good. Like, if you have a hunter that counters cipher rushing, just from knowing that one sentence, you know that they are good. And when you actually look at Photo and what he does is attack recovery, that's insane. His pallet breaking speed, that's really good. And trump card, which is amazing for photo. Now that he has blink and teleport at the end, his second skill with the cards of going back in time, that's really good. So photo is definitely a really good hunter, and he's still the same level he was. No survivors have came out that really hard counter photo or anything like that. Doctor is still the biggest counter to photographer, but luckily you will not face many doctors in high tiers, because doctor is only really good if you know you're facing a photo or a mad eyes. If you know you're facing one of those two hunters, then doctor destroys them. But if you face like a ripper or a spider, then you can die really quickly with her, because she's not a great kiter. So usually you won't face doctor, which really helps out photographer. Lastly, let's go to S tier. First in S tier, let's start off with a hunter that recently got nerfed, and that's Soul Weaver. Soul Weaver, I had her as the best hunter in the game in my last tier list, and she is still an S tier hunter. And I'll just say this, all the S tier hunters for me are the same level. So she technically for me is still the best hunter in the game, but also the other two hunters are the best hunter in the game. All three of these hunters are tied because of the maps that they have. But Soul Weaver is still a great hunter. She's super fast and super difficult to kite. If you know how to play Soul Weaver, then she is has pretty good camping, difficult to kite, and good mobility. Trump card is great on her. Now that you have blink, that makes her even more difficult to kite while still having teleport at the end. She's just a great hunter. She's the most nerfed hunter ever in this game, and even after all of these nerfs that she's had, she's still S tier. So that just tells you how good of a hunter she really is. And Soul Weaver on Red Church is as strong as any other hunter you can play. Soul Weaver on her best map is Red Church. Soul Weaver, Red Church, blink, trump card to teleport is insane. It's really great. It's as good as any other hunter you're gonna get. So Soul Weaver is very, very good. She's still S tier even after the nerf, and the nerf didn't really do much at all, to be honest. You can notice the speed decrease, but if you use Soul Weaver correctly, which is stacking the webs, not just using one at a time, when you're stacking the webs for speed, you're basically the same exact speed. So the last nerf that she got didn't do too much, so that's why she's still S tier. Next in S tier is another hunter that was S tier. There was two S tier hunters last tier list, and he still is S tier, and that's the Ripper. The Ripper has not been nerfed, surprisingly. This guy no nerfs. So besides his old nerf that he got, that really didn't do much then either. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a nerf, but for now he hasn't. So he's really good. He's very difficult to kite. Anyone can tell you Ripper is hard to kite. Ripper is also a really good camper. He's really fast with his invisibility, and trump card's great on him now that you can have peepers and teleport, or blink and teleport. So Ripper, his best map is Moonlit. Ripper Moonlit is just as good as any hunter in the game. Ripper Moonlit is very, very difficult to beat. The same way Soul Weaver Red Church is very, very difficult to beat. So Ripper is still an S tier hunter. I think basically everyone should know this at this point. Ripper is a great hunter. And lastly, in S tier is a hunter that actually jumped. She has jumped every single tier list I made. The first tier list she was on, she was B tier. And people kind of got mad at me for her being B tier because they said she should be lower. They said she was unviable. And then I jumped her in my last one to A tier. once people started to see that she was actually pretty strong. And now, with Trump card, she's S tier. She's jumped again to S tier. So that's Dream Witch. Dream Witch has jumped to S tier, and she's so strong. Her early game is good. Like, she can kill a survivor pretty quickly, and then her in game is the best in game of any hunter right now. The fact that she has multiple servants, you will see you can have one cipher remaining and 4 people alive, and in 5 minutes you can have one cipher remaining and 4 people dead. Anyone can tell you, if you faced a good Dream Witch, that has definitely happened to you before. Dream Witch is really good, really strong, good at catching people, and Trump card is just amazing on her. You got Blink at the start, and then in game Abnormal. The fact that she can Abnormal with her main body and all of her servants, that makes her so strong. And Abnormal recently did get nerfed because of her, and this nerf is pretty impactful. But Abnormal is still great on Dream Witch. Trump card is still great on Dream Witch, and she's still an S tier hunter. She is my favorite hunter to use. I main Dream Witch, and if I could go with any hunter to win a game, if you told me I have to win one game, and I could go with any hunter to use, it will always be Dream Witch. Her best map is Arms Factory. Dream Witch Arms Factory is as good as Ripper Moonlit, which is as good as Soul Weaver Red Church, which is why all 3 of these hunters are, in my opinion, the same level. Dream Witch Arms Factory is very strong. Trump card, Blink, Abnormal, Arms Factory, Dream Witch. You can't get any better. It's very difficult to beat her. However, she does have counterplay. Her counterplay is one, kiting her. She's not Ripper. She's not Soul Weaver. She is easier to kite. She doesn't have something that helps her kill survivors quickly. So if you can kite her, then you can win. Because if she cannot get a down early enough, if it takes her super long to get that down, then your chances of winning are very high at that point. Another counterplay, and the biggest one, is simply removing the leeches. Many people don't do this, but that's how you beat a Dream Witch. You only lose to a Dream Witch when you do not remove leeches. When you don't remove the servants, that makes her so strong, and that makes her become even more OP, because she can be across the entire map. But if you're quick on removing the leeches, you are taking away her power. Ripper, you can't remove his Foggy Blade. Soul Weaver, you can't remove her webs. So you can't stop them from using their power. But at Dream Witch, there's a mechanic built into the game to stop her from using her power. And many survivors just don't take advantage of it, and that's why they lose. It's because they don't remove the leeches. If you remove leeches quickly and you're on it, then I promise you will have a much better chance of beating a Dream Witch. In game, you cannot have everyone leeched. You have to remove it. If she has 3 servants in game, of course she's gonna come back and kill you all with detention, because she can cover all exit gates. But if you had removed her leeches before you got to that point, what is she going to do then? Her in game is nothing. It's not any stronger than anyone else at that point. So there is counterplay to Dream Witch, which makes her beatable, which is why she's not some unbeatable hunter. It's just many survivors don't use that counterplay, and that's what gets them in trouble, and that's what makes them lose to her Dream Witch. But regardless, she's very strong, S tier without a doubt. She's just as strong as Ripper or Soul Weaver, and that's why she's banned a lot in top tiers. Dream Witch is banned a lot, Ripper's banned a lot, and Soul Weaver's also banned, especially if you get Red Church. Soul Weaver's banned there. So that'll be all for the tier list. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helped you out. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe to the channel. We are very close to 5,000 subscribers. Hashtag road to 5K. So please subscribe, and that'll be all for the video. Bye.